Good morning. I'm Janet Ott, representing the League of Women Voters of Bellingham and Whatcom County, and I'm your moderator for this forum today. Founded in 1920, we are a nonpartisan organization with 800 affiliates across the country. Our goals are to encourage informed and active participation in government, increase an understanding of major public policy issues, and influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League never endorses candidates or political parties. Membership is open to both men and women of all ages, and we invite you to join us. Technical support this morning is generously provided by Robert Clark, manager of Western Washington University's Academic Technology User Services. A recording of this forum will be broadcast on BTV Bellingham, the City of Bellingham YouTube channel, and KGMI. It will be available on our League website also. Our media partners this morning are the Linden Tribune and the Northern Light, and we appreciate their generous support. This morning, we are hosting candidates Christine Grant and Jeffrey McClure, who are running in this election for Whatcom Public Utility District Number 1 Commissioner. PUD District 1 is governed by a 3-member board of commissioners, with each commissioner serving a 6-year term. The commission establishes PUD policies, sets rates, adopts plans for electric and water utilities, and approves revenue obligations. We will be using the following rules, and these are for the candidates. You will have the opportunity to make a 2-minute opening and a 1-minute closing statement. You will have up to 90 seconds to answer each question. You have each been given a challenge card. If you wish to challenge a response made by your opponent, please raise your card. You can use your card up to 2 times during the entire debate, and you have 30 seconds to present your challenge. Your opponent has 30 seconds for rebuttal. Your second challenge cannot be used on the same question. For tracking time, when you begin to speak, the timer screen, which you can all see, will turn green. When 15 seconds remain, the screen will turn yellow. When your time has expired, the screen will turn red and a bell will sound. If you continue beyond your allotted time, your microphone may be muted. So you will be providing your opening and closing statements in alphabetical order of your last name, and I will be alternating the order for responding to the questions. So any questions, candidates? Do you have any questions before we start?
No.
Okay, and I believe our timers are ready. So we're going to start with candidate Grant. Please give us your opening statement.
Great. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. My name is Christine Grant, and I'm a candidate for the Whatcom County Public Utility District Commission. I have spent my career advising public and private utilities, including PUDs, all across the country. My work has focused on everything from the rate impacts of transportation electrification to utility bucket truck selection to billing. Figuring out how to fund projects is a passion of mine, and I've worked with a range of different utilities on financing clean energy programs and projects. Over the last roughly 10 years, I've helped my clients bring in $25 million of competitive funding for clean energy and green jobs initiatives. And in addition to my consulting work, I also teach energy policy with the Institute for Energy Studies at Western Washington University. I'm a mom, a wife, and 3 generations of my family have called Whatcom County home. And I'm running for this position because I want my daughter's generation to be able to enjoy a healthy Nooksack River, clean air, and a stable climate. I have engaged with thousands of Whatcom County residents during this campaign, and folks are extremely frustrated with the poor quality of internet services available to them and the lack of choices available to them. 15 other PUDs offer open access fiber optic internet infrastructure to their communities. Many are offering last mile solutions, and they got started 20 years ago. Our PUD's lack of engagement for almost a decade on internet infrastructure and policy has hurt Whatcom families and businesses. Getting last mile fiber optic internet infrastructure solutions to Whatcom families and businesses will be my top priority as a PUD commissioner. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate McClure, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this forum. My wife and I moved to Whatcom County nearly 40 years ago, and I immediately became involved in civic life here, having served on numerous boards during these past few years. I also established my architectural practice here in downtown Bellingham. My 17-member firm, RMC Architects, works on all manner of public and private complex projects, weaving the fabric of community into all that we do, including sustainability. It's important for you to understand this because it's good context for the work I do for the PUD. During the course of my career, I've overseen hundreds of millions of dollars of construction. And as a job creator and business person, I've done the hard work of taking big ideas and turning them into implementable solutions. I was recruited 12 years ago to run for the PUD Commission because it was thought that my project management experience would be beneficial to the PUD because it was embarking on a major upgrade of its facilities. Since that time, we've spent over $50 million modernizing our core facilities, and I'm very pleased to say that we've done that all without spending $1 of taxpayer money. We have rewritten our strategic plan and are 3 years into that on some very ambitious goals, including the extension of broadband infrastructure throughout the county, protection of water rights for both fishing and farming, investments in renewable energy and reduction of greenhouse gases, and the support of jobs. I'm pleased to be supported by dozens of people across the political spectrum, including U.S. Congressman Rick Larson, former Whatcom County Executive Jack Lowes, and former Bellingham Mayor Kelly Linville. And I'm very pleased to engage in this discussion with my opponent today.
Thank you. The first question. Water is an essential resource with many different demands that can be conflicting. What role can the PUD take to ensure that there is a balance between ecological, agricultural, and industrial and municipal needs? And we'll start with you, Candidate Grant.
Yeah, great. The role of the PUD with respect to water rights and protection of the Nooksack River is critical. And we have some really complex water rights and water quantity challenges facing us. So one of the first things that I'll say is that we need to address the water rights challenges that we're facing soon. Delaying isn't going to make these complex problems any harder. And so there's an adjudication process that's been recommended by the Department of Ecology, and it is going to be a very long and hard process, but I think it is important that everyone is playing by the same rules when it comes to water rights. I think we also need much better data about how we're using water in Whatcom County to start coming up with better solutions for managing our water quantity challenges. If we don't have hard data, we need to use estimates. I'd also like to see the PUD play a role with state level policymakers talking about water banking and water rights transfers. A lot of the existing water law that we have in Washington state doesn't make sense for some of the challenges that we're facing right now. And protecting our farming community is a really important part of that. And I would look for every possible low interest loan or grant to help increase opportunities to provide irrigation to the farming community.
Hey, thank you. Candidate McClure, your response, please.
It's difficult to discuss anything related to water rights in a 90-second segment, but I would like to start by saying that the PUD has been working closely with all parties for the past decade. We have remarkably good relationships with both tribes as well as cities and other entities throughout the county in these discussions. We are facing some severe problems, I think, in regards to adjudication. But what adjudication means is that every water right holder, if they are challenged, will wind up in a court of law to determine if they have a legal water right. This just got concluded in Yakima. It took 30 years and hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees to do that. The PUD is not in support of the adjudication process because we favor negotiation over adjudication. Adjudication, we have sent a letter to the Department of Ecology stating, let's hold off on adjudication and get back to the negotiation table like we've done in the upper reaches of the Nooksack River with the Three Forks Agreement, and began by talking about the lower Nooksack strategy, which has stalled, but we recently have had productive discussions with the Lummi Nation on restarting that discussion. So we feel, as one of the largest water right holders, senior water right holders in Whatcom County, that we have an effective role to play in using a great portion of our large unused water right to find answers to these solutions for both fishing and farming.
Okay, thank you. So question number 2 is an aspect of water rights, and this focuses on agricultural. So agriculture is a vital element in Whatcom County. Agricultural inputs, waste products, and practices can have a significant impact on our water quality and quantity problems for fresh and marine water. Does the PUD have a role in mitigating the effects? And if so, how could it make a positive impact? And we'll start with you, candidate McClure.
Let me tell you about a project that we have embarked on in working with private industry to develop some cutting edge technology to support the dairy industry in North Whatcom County. Working in partnership with Regenus Corporation and Coldstream Dairy in the Acme Valley, we supported a pilot project to process dairy waste into dry fertilizer and clean water. The net benefit of that is returning water to the stream that could be productively used for other purposes. The problem with dairy waste is you have to do something with it. It just keeps coming. And if it's put on the fields in wet climates, it can wind up in our watershed. So we see this as a great experimental project that can be scaled to support our dairy industry. And I might point out that all of agriculture accounts for about $500 million in our commerce in Whatcom County alone. So it not only supports a great deal of our economy, but it also supports a great deal of our life. Our pastoral settings in the North County really need to be preserved. And if we don't find ways for agriculture to continue to be used, I fear further development and urbanization of this environment, which won't benefit fish. So I think this is a very proactive solution that can be implemented today to support the ag industry.
Thank you. So candidate Grant, your response, please.
Yes, so I from the very beginning of this campaign have talked about supporting our farming community and making sure that our farming community can thrive in Whatcom County. And, was recently on a farm in Linden, 5th generation dairy farm. And one of the conversations that we were having was the fact that by protecting farmland in Whatcom County, we are also protecting, we can be protecting the Nooksack River while we do it. When farmland gets developed, it can create more stormwater runoff, which makes our river less healthy. So I think that there are ways that we can work hand in hand. Protecting the farming community can be good for our rivers. So I think the number one challenge facing the farming community, there's a lot of challenges facing the farming community, but lack of certainty related to their water rights is a very big threat. And, both the city of Bellingham and the PUD have very large water rights, which should ideally be used to support the agricultural community, so that we can protect those farms. And I, wanted to point out too that I am the only candidate endorsed by both the Lummi Nation and the Nooksack Indian Tribe. They were the first water users in the Nooksack watershed. And so I am committed to coming to the table with them to negotiate solutions, both to water quantity and quality solutions.
Okay, thank you. Question number 3. With an increasing emphasis on alternative energy, Cherry Point may need to recognize this new reality to remain stable or viable. What role can the PUD take in future development of the area to adapt to this change, and what would that look like? And we'll start with you, candidate Grant.
Yeah, so my background is in energy policy, and I think it's very exciting, actually, some of the commitments that BP has made to becoming carbon neutral by 2050. So there's a lot of excitement among industry about some of the opportunities available as we decarbonize our economy. Opportunities for the PUD to play a role. The PUD is the largest processor of water in Whatcom County, moving between 14 and 17 million gallons of water a day from Ferndale primarily down to Cherry Point. Putting turbines in those water pipes and generating electricity is an idea that would create local renewable energy and wouldn't damage ecosystems while creating that hydropower. So, that's an idea that I've talked with representatives of both BP and PSC about, and there's interest in. The PUD has access to very cheap and clean electricity through BPA. Several other PUDs serve data centers, green data centers, and those are projects that create a lot of jobs during the construction phase and are critical as more of our life moves online. So I would love to work with industry to create next generation low carbon industries at Cherry Point, and I'm doing that work through my job at Western.
Thank you.
Your response, please, candidate McClure.
We're always looking for ways where we can redevelop at Cherry Point because it's a great asset for our community and the well-paid jobs there. But as we all know, industry is changing, as evidenced by the recent closure of Alcoa and Talco Works and the loss of 750 family wage jobs, not to mention the spin-off jobs that come with those kinds of industries. BP has embarked on several very innovative initiatives for their corporation, and I think that that's terrific. The PUD can support these industries, and we are actively doing that. We are in conversations right now and just about ready to embark on some engineering studies to provide substation infrastructure that can support green energy, like a large utility-grade solar facility that could help offset greenhouse gases in those industries and perhaps be used for Bellingham homeowners. We also are discussing a partnership with the Port of Bellingham to create a 300-acre clean energy park. What is the next generation of clean energy jobs that we can bring to the community? Again, the infrastructure that we can provide in partnership with the Port of Bellingham for economic development will create a much more sustainable clean energy future, including well-paid jobs.
Okay, thank you. Question number 4. Many voters only hear of the PUD when this office is on their ballot at election time. So what ideas do you have for improved outreach so that the public understands that what service the PUD is providing? And we'll start with candidate McClure.
The initiatives, let me back up and just say we have prided ourselves at the PUD for being doers, not talkers. We are a trusted partner in many quarters of both public and private entities around the county because they know we're a trusted partner and can get things done. As a result of that, maybe we have not spent as much time talking about our accomplishments, and we recognize that. We currently have gone through a rebranding exercise to reflect in our identity the modern organization that we are today. And we intend to embark on initiatives to provide more frequent communication about the kinds of things that we're doing. One of the initiatives that we're taking up is support of agriculture through the Farming for Life exhibit up at Northwest Washington Fair. They're in the process of raising funds to create a state-of-the-art interpretive exhibit so that people can understand what farming is about and the value it brings to our community. We're intending to make a major donation to that to help spur fundraising so that we can weave into that the concept of how water is so critical to so many forms of life in Whatcom County, including agriculture. And I think it's an opportunity for us to raise our identity within the community about all that we do.
Okay, thank you. Your response, please, Candidate Grant.
Yes, I think that there's a lot that the PUD could do to provide better and more modern outreach to the general public. And one of the first things that I did this spring was encourage the PUD's general manager to make the Zoom recordings of the PUD Commission meetings available to the general public online, just like most other public organizations do. So we need to kind of continue to have modern outreach tools like that. The PUD has no social media presence. So as a future commissioner, I would commit to doing things like virtual town halls, like I did just a few days ago, so that people have an opportunity to talk directly with me and ask questions, as well as things like putting together members of the public and key stakeholders to be involved in the selection of the new general manager for the PUD. I've also talked with members of the Nooksack and Lummi Nation tribe about making Treaty Day an official holiday at the PUD to recognize the importance of tribal treaty rights, which have often not been a primary part of the policy discussion at the PUD. So I think that there are many ways that the PUD could better engage with all members of the community, meeting them where they're at with different technology tools. And thanks, my time is up.
Thank you. Question number 5. What role should the PUD take in establishing and enforcing water quantity and quality standards that protect, conserve, and restore water resources for our salmon? So we'll start with you, Candidate Grant.
Yeah, so, like I said before, there are some state laws related to water quantity that just don't make sense anymore for where we're at. So the idea of relinquishment, use it or lose it laws, those are things that might that don't necessarily make sense anymore, especially if we want to encourage things like water banking and water rights transfers. So, one of the things that I can assure voters is that as a commissioner, I will be very engaged with our state representatives and state policy, because in order to be effective at the local level, you need to understand how state level policies limit and impact what's possible at the local level. So, I feel very lucky to have strong working relationships and endorsements from State Representative Rammel, Shoemake, Deborah Lekanoff, and State Senator Liz Lovelet, and would plan to spend quite a bit of time in Olympia working on water-related issues, as well as broadband and energy-related policy. So, again, I think that we need to be able to, we can't manage what we don't measure, and we need better data about how we're using water in Whatcom County in order to come up with water quantity solutions. And if we're not able to get the hard data, we need to be able to estimate it.
Okay, thank you. Your response, please, candidate McClure.
In terms of water quality, we face some serious issues in the North County with some nitrates that are seeping into our aquifer, and some of our water associations are swimming under the tide of the burden, I should say, of increased regulation. We started a pilot program 2 years ago with the Department of Health to assist water associations in meeting rigorous regulation standards and helping to operate these facilities. We didn't operate themselves, but we provided technical assistance to that because we recognized this was a crying need. We didn't feel it was our role to step in and be the heavy hand of government on this, but we wanted to provide whatever assistance we could so these water associations could run more effectively and provide cleaner drinking water. In regards to data, also through the Watershed Management Board, we are doing active studies in the Bertrand watershed to measure and monitor aquifers so we know exactly what sort of resource that we have. And we are also very active with organizations like Nooksack Salmon Enhancement Association in creating miles and miles of habitat in the Nooksack River and its tributaries to improve water quality. Many of these things may look like small measures, but I think it's small measures that are important to create really large impact.
Thank you. So question number 6 is the last water related question. And the PUD has recently completed a drought contingency plan recommending a future actions designed to mitigate drought impacts and improve the effectiveness of local drought response actions. Such a plan needs acceptance to be successful in coping with future water supply shortages that could severely impact our economy. What actions should the PUD take to make sure that this plan is adopted? And we'll start with you, candidate McClure.
I'd like to point out that the PUD was the leader in that drought contingency plan, and we did that plan with the full support of many of the county organizations so that we had buy-in from the very beginning. The plan is intended when a drought is established that we have a coordinated effort amongst all parties within the county to make certain that we keep water where water is most needed. Going further than this and recognizing the impacts of climate change is really continues to be a critical need. We need to ensure that there is enough water flowing through the Nooksack River and its tributaries in order to support these critical functions. One of the things that we have also done is recognize the need and studied where storage could be required. It's very simple. We get plenty of rain, plenty of water in the Nooksack River during the winter, but in August, when both fishing and farming need these resources, it becomes more minimal. Storage is critically important so that we can have a reservoir of water during the winter months to be used during the summer months. And we have conducted a study of the primary sites that would allow such thing. As you might imagine, the environmental concerns are pretty stringent. Getting authorization to do this at the state level would take some time, but we feel that this is the only way that we're going to be able to answer this needs about the potential of drought.
Thank you. Your response, please, candidate Grant.
Yes, so based on conversations with current General Manager Steve Jilk, the drought contingency plan was partially done in order to be able to apply for Bureau of Reclamation low interest loans to help pay for irrigation infrastructure. And so, that is something that, yes, putting in piping to help get water to farmers is expensive. But as I've mentioned, throughout my career, I have worked with municipalities, private sector players to apply for sources of funding in order to make infrastructure projects a reality. And so I think that the PUD needs to really continue to look for any way to help fund that infrastructure so that we can get water to the users that need it, and stop drawing water from some of the critical fish habitat areas, some of the tributaries that don't have, that particularly have water quantity issues in the summer months, where the PUD draws water in the main stem of the Nooksack. There are not nearly as many water quantity issues. I also think we need to look to places like Walla Walla, where they've worked in partnership with their ag community to come up with new practices for farming in order to use slightly less water in the summer months.
Okay, thank you. So this is question number 7, and this is the last question. So the pandemic has shown internet access is no longer a luxury. It is an essential utility, but yet still many people in Whatcom County have unreliable and expensive internet service. The Port of Bellingham has commissioned a study to evaluate the need for further broadband investments in Whatcom County, with the PUD as an active partner. What role should the PUD take in this significant project? And we'll start with you, candidate Grant.
Yeah, so it's heartbreaking what's going on with internet access. I've talked with restaurant owners in the county where it takes over a minute to run a credit card because their internet's so slow, technology workers that can't download files or join Zoom calls, students that are learning from parking lots in their cars because they simply don't have the ability to pay for or even the option to access the internet from their homes. So as I've said before, 15 other PUDs provide wholesale open access fiber optic internet infrastructure. Fiber is the future of the internet. Other developed countries are very rapidly adopting fiber, and we can't just have fiber backbones and middle miles. We need to figure out solutions to get last mile fiber to our families and businesses. And there are a number of financing tools to do that. The other PUDs have received millions of dollars to pay for these projects through the Department of Commerce, USDA. The FCC has $20 billion that's going to be available for rural broadband infrastructure. And there's also opportunities to work with community development financial institutions and set up things called local utility districts to help pay for the last mile solutions. As I've said before, it's my number one priority as a future PUD commissioner. And frankly, we are suffering, our economy is suffering because we haven't made these investments already.
Okay, thank you. Candidate McClure, your response, please.
As has been mentioned before, as you stated the question, we are in partnership with Bellingham investigating these solutions. We have participated in the initial feasibility study that identified a 3-phase approach to extending fiber optic backbone throughout the county. I am in support of that fiber optic backbone, and we are about to embark on the final business plan for that element so that construction can begin on the first segment of this within the first year of 2021. It's a difficult challenge. It's an expensive challenge. There are funds available, but many of the PUDs that have been successful so far at implementing this have other sources of income, like generation of power on the Columbia River, that supplement these. So we need to do this very, very carefully. The PUD went into this 20 years ago. It is the backbone of fiber optic that the city of Bellingham now operates. And so this is a priority to be able to move this forward because we need it not only to provide for distance learning opportunities, but for low-income people to access telehealth, for public safety and the like. It's also an exciting time because new technologies are creating a game-changing opportunity through Starlink and satellite access that will help shift the infrastructure needs. So we're excited to be a part of this.
Thank you. You will now both have an opportunity to make a 1-minute closing statement, and we'll start with you, candidate Grant.
Yeah, so our PUD commission provides the policy direction for our PUD, and I am uniquely qualified to be a PUD commissioner because I've spent my career working with utilities. But aside from my qualifications, we are also living in a time when we need strong leaders, not just administrators that can empathize, that can listen and adapt. Our country and community are facing enormous and complex challenges. And many people feel frustrated right now because they want public institutions that are more responsive to the challenges of the 21st century. So I offer Whatcom voters an alternative to the status quo and the opportunity to create a PUD that has a stronger focus on the needs of all Whatcom County residents. So I ask for your vote, and thank you again to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum.
Thank you. And your final statement, candidate McClure.
The PUD today is a vastly different organization than the one I've joined 12 years ago, and I'm proud to have led its transformation. And we've done all of this without levying $1 in taxpayer money, and I continue to be committed to that, particularly during these difficult economic times. With this modernization of the PUD, we've established ambitious plans that I've already spoken about, but I will reiterate our commitment to expanding fiber optic backbone, assisting energy into a clean energy future, continuing our leadership in water resource planning, and always the support of well-paid jobs and a strong, robust economy. I am the candidate with a track record for taking these big ideas and turning them into reality. And as I mentioned, I'm supported by all dozens of members of this community leadership all across the political spectrum, including Rick Larson and others. Please visit my website at McClure4PUD.com.
Okay, thank you. And we want to thank both of you for coming to this debate today, and especially want to thank you for your decision to run for public office. So now the next message is for the public. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, guaranteeing and protecting women's constitutional right to vote. For this reason, it's a special year for the League of Women Voters. However, it should remind all of us that many people have fought hard against difficult odds to expand the right to vote in this country. Please use that privilege this year. Fill out your ballot and don't forget to sign the envelope. And thank you all for coming.